Ronnie Dale, four-wheeling at westernaustralia.com, and welcome to a video with tips and advice on how to kit out your overland vehicle when it comes to electrics. So this is all about the general stuff, not how to DIY stuff. That is in another video up here and will be in a link down at the end of the video. This video is more about how to go about the whole process, even if you're DIYing or if you're going out to auto electricians or the full drive accessory stores to get your work done. So this will help you save money, let you know what to look out for, also save you a lot of hassle. So the first topic I'm going to talk about here is the pricing. When you go to an auto electrician or a full drive accessory store and you get a quotation on the labour cost on what it, to do electric work on your vehicle, it's usually really high. And a lot of people think they're getting ripped off, but in actual fact, most of the time you're not getting ripped off, because electrics takes a long time. It's very tedious if it's done proper. So a job that you might consider and I might consider to be 3 hours will actually take us a whole day to do. And a professional auto electrician will probably take him 5 or 6 hours if it's done properly. There's a lot of things that need to be done proper that could be shortcut. My point here is, when you head out and you get a quotation for electrical work done to your vehicle, you may get a really high price, you may get a really low price, and you might have a few prices in between. Never go for the lowest price. Never, ever go for the lowest price. Question the highest price, but somewhere in the middle is probably where you should be looking, because the lowest price, if you go for that, you are going to be paying more money later to fix or correct what's been done, and they may not have even understood properly what it is you want done, and that's why the price is so low. If the price is really low, then that should ring alarm bells saying that these guys may cut corners. Just think about it. The first stage of electrics for your overland vehicle is planning. You need to work out exactly what it is you want it to do and what you actually need, and take the time to research it. There are a lot of products out there, but really take your time to plan it out and see what other guys are using. Don't rush out and do this kind of stuff, because I'll get to those points later. When we pop the bonnet, you're going to end up with a mess of wires and you're going to be changing things. And take that from someone who's changed a lot of things in the past. Battery systems. There are so many ways you can do this, and a lot of people don't realise that there are many ways that you can do this. So many ways. So be very careful here. Say you've done your planning proper, now you have an understanding of what you might need. So I'm going to give you 4 different examples, and these are general. They may not suit everyone in the situation that I'm going to describe, but take it on board and it's going to help you decide what you want to do. Starting with, say you're the person who goes to the beach every now and then, you don't have a fridge, and you may go on an annual trip or something like that. And look, even if you do have a fridge and it doesn't live in the vehicle, you don't actually need a dual battery system. You have your main battery to run the vehicle, that's fine. Buy a battery box with a battery in it. You can take this in and out, and you can take it with you wherever you go. You might go with a mate, take it with you, with your mate. That's all you need. It's more portable, it's more usable. There's no need to go out and spend over $1,000 on a dual battery system if you don't really need it. Then we have the next step, the dual battery system. This will be for the people who have a fridge living in the vehicle. It's always there. Look, it could even be for work, it could be for play, it could be for both. Then I'll suggest having a dual battery system. Then you can wire up your light in the back, inverters, you name it, you can run everything. Then you have the serious camper, the guy who goes out, or the girl, goes out and camps for a while at the same spot where there's no facilities, proper camping. And you have your lights, you have your fridge, you have your inverter, you've got all this kind of stuff. Then I would suggest having either 2 auxiliary batteries with your main battery, of course, or 1 auxiliary battery with maybe some solar panels so you can keep them charged. Then you have the other kind of people that like to head out in the bush to have a lot of fun driving at night. They got all their lights on, they got the winch going, because you know they're having a bit of fun on maybe some obstacle courses. Those kind of people should really consider, I'm not saying you must have, consider having 2 main batteries, 2 cranking batteries, because that will really help the batteries keep up with the amount of power load that's being demanded. Because if you've got all your lights on and you're winching at the same time, and let's be honest, when you're in that situation, you want all your lights on so you can see what you're winching. That's where you need more power. Otherwise, you will eventually kill that single battery. It's too much demand on that one battery. Also, for those people, 2 cranking batteries, it doesn't mean you can't have an auxiliary battery in the back. And that is actually what I have in my vehicle. I've tried all the different setups. A bit more advice when it comes to dual batteries. And the first thing is, when you go and you order your dual battery system to get done, you have to specify certain things. Otherwise you may not get it. And the first thing is the type of battery you want in. If you don't specify that you want your house battery or auxiliary battery, your second battery, to be a deep cycle, you may not get it. It's happened to me before. I ended up with a cranking battery as a second battery. What's the use of that? The other thing you need to specify is that you want it isolated. So you want your battery isolated. Now, of course, if you want 2 batteries in parallel, that's different. You don't need an isolator. But most people who get a dual battery system installed, you have your main, you have your auxiliary, you need them isolated. Otherwise, when you run your fridge in the back, it's going to draw from both batteries and they're going to level out, and then eventually you're not going to be able to start your car because you left your car somewhere for a couple of days, or you've been at camp, you've been drawing too much power. It's not going to work. Isolate the batteries. The other thing I would suggest that you also get is a BCDC charger. And what that does is, it's a smart charger. The alternator will charge your main battery, but because the batteries are isolated, you need a smart charger to charge your second battery properly. So what will happen is the BCDC or the DC-DC charger will boost charge the second battery. Once it senses that the main battery is optimum, it'll then proceed to charge the second battery, and then you've got a nice 100% charged second battery. Adding extra wires. Now this is a really good one, and it'll save you money and it'll save you hassle. Basically, when you get a dual battery system installed and you have a fridge in the back, whatnot in the back, they will look at what you have and go, okay, so we need 1 wire to the back because that's going to power everything. I would suggest you ask them to put an additional wire in, or maybe even 2 extra wires in, because you're already paying for the labour for them to pull the wire through. So all you're going to do now is pay for 2 extra wires, and now you've got 3 wires at the back, or 2 wires, and it's ready for when you want to install other accessories in the back. Okay, because there's only so many things you can run off 1 single wire. Battery terminals. This is a bit of a situation here. I would say, do as I say, don't do as I've done in this particular case. Now, this is a classic example of 95% of people who have 4-wheel drives with accessories. And that is a bloody mess of spaghetti on battery terminals. There are way too many things coming off these. Now, look, I understand some of it is unavoidable. You're going to have some lugs onto your terminals, but there are better ways of doing this. So, for example, all the switches in the cab. If you run a thick wire from your terminal, from the battery that you want the power from, into the cab, and you put a terminal stud inside, then you can run all your wires inside off that terminal stud, and you don't have to feed all these wires through the firewall. I have so many wires going through this firewall, and this is a common case with a lot of people. It's ridiculous, the amount of wiring that goes through. When you have your vehicle and you're starting from scratch, just please consider putting terminal studs in various places inside your vehicle. You have a common positive to run all your stuff off, and the same to the back as well. Because in here, it's a mess. And look, the more lugs you have on top of each other, the more chance there is of volt drops, and that's something that you don't really want. The next thing I'd like to mention is when you put wiring into your vehicle or someone else has done it for you, make sure that the wire, they haven't like put an excessive amount all coiled up. Now this shouldn't happen very often, but it does happen. The more coils you have in a wire, the more chance you have of creating an electromagnetic field, and that electromagnetic field could interfere with your UHF radio, your AM FM stereo, or even your wiring harness for your computer, or even your performance chip. It could impact on those things. So you don't want a big pile of wires. Cut them to suit. A little bit of slack is ideal. You don't want them super tight either. Another good thing to know, if you're doing it yourself or if you got it done somewhere else, is how have they mounted the wires. So have they used corrugated tubing? If they have, is it UV stable? Have they used UV stable zip ties? Otherwise they may just go brittle and fall off later. So say I'm running a wire from this battery to the back, then I would use a chassis rail all the way to the back. I may even go inside the chassis rail if I can. I would not tie it to suspension components, anything that moves, including the engine block. You don't want to be cable tying anything to that either, because the engine will move. Otherwise you'll be tearing wires, there'll be rubbing, there'll be abrasion, electrical fires. I think you get the idea. Also, check the wires as well. Have they been soldered properly? Have they been crimped properly? I have a bit of a horror story. I, on a previous vehicle, got a bull bar installed, and the guys who did the wiring on it twitched the wiring together with their fingers, I kid you not, and taped it with electrical tape. That is like the worst connection that you can possibly have. I in fact grabbed the wires to expose them because I was going to install extra lights. I was going to see where I could take the power off. Just ripped it straight off. So be very careful. If you get a really, really cheap price, again, be very skeptical. Next thing I want to talk about is interference with your radios and stuff. Now we've already covered if you coil a wire up, you may get an electromagnetic field. This is a bit different. If you run heavy gauge cable next to your AM FM stereo antenna or even power cable, your UHF, if you run any high powered cable next to these other things, it may send interference noises through your radio or your AM FM radio. You may have noticed it on your own radio. If you got high current cable that's close to it, you get this static, you get like this noise when you're playing your music. It's not really that great, and you have to sort of get in there and fix it all up. And the reason why this happens is because a lot of people go to different places to get things installed. So most people will go to an audio place to get a stereo installed. And the guy who installs a stereo, he installs it in normal vehicles. He may not be aware of four-wheel drive kind of gear. When we fit Overland vehicles, there is so much stuff in there because we've got so many gadgets, and all he's got to do is run that wire close to any of those high current cables and your stereo doesn't sound that great. Now we're talking about performance chips, not about what to do with them, but to be aware of making sure that people install them in the right place. All vehicles are different, even the same makes and models. There are different configurations to batteries and whatnot. So what you need to be aware of is when the people that install the performance chip, they need to mount it somewhere. They may not be able to mount it where they normally mount it. So some places can do some pretty idiotic and stupid things. I've seen one place install a performance chip hanging off one bolt on a similar vehicle. Well, same type of vehicle, same motor as mine. It's ridiculous. I've also seen another one that was cable tied somewhere. But here's the thing, right? If you are going for the cheapest price, you're going to get the cheapest work. And also consider it from their point of view too. You may have screwed them down so far in price. They need to get the car done and out of their workshop so they can get the next one. So keep that in mind. If you go for the cheapest price, you will be paying for it later. People that go to all different places, and it's quite common, it's a very common issue. Someone may go get a dual battery system at place A, get some lights installed at place B, get the stereo installed at place C. There's 3 different places already. Wiring quality is going to be all different. There's going to be wires crisscrossing. You're going to end up with a terminal mess. Be aware of that. 90% of four-wheel drives out there that have accessories in them have done the exact same thing. I've done the same thing. I still haven't learnt from that lesson. So try and learn from the rest of us and try and avoid doing that. Try and get all electrics done at one place, or even better by yourself. Picture you're out in the middle of nowhere. You have an electrical problem. There are 2 situations. Situation 1, you had all your stuff done at one place. You have a diagram of where all the wires and the fuses, where everything goes. Situation 2, like most of us will experience. We've been out shopping at all these different places. 4 different companies have worked on our vehicles. There's wires going everywhere. The previous person didn't know what the other person has done. We have an electrical problem out in the bush. You have no mud map. You're basically going to be spending a long time looking for the problem, if you even find the problem. So there is another reason why I would suggest going to one place, everything done, get a diagram, and you know what's going on. Or of course, you do it yourself and then you've got your own diagram. Expectations with solar panels. This is a 20-watt panel, ladies and gentlemen. It does nothing. You could probably charge an iPhone or an iPad with it, maybe a laptop. That's it. It's not going to do anything else for you. So don't waste your money on small panels. Get the bigger fold-out panels. Bear in mind they're heavy. Blankets are lighter. Still heavy, but lighter. Or a fixed panel. A fixed panel will get, at the best, 4 hours of sunlight. You know, if you're at the arse end or top end of the world, if you're in the equator, you probably get a lot more. But the sun's on more angles. At winter, 4 hours at best, I'm going to get full sunlight. Summer, maybe 6 hours. Foldable panel, all day long. You can follow it around. And with panels, there are differences in panels too, and you pay for what you get. So we're nearly at the end of the video, but some final piece of advice. I'm going to go through different items and which battery they should be running off, so you don't mess up your setup and end up draining your battery. So we'll start with winches. Winches need to run off your main battery while the engine is running. That way you won't kill your battery. You can't run a winch off a deep cycle battery, you'll just destroy that battery in no time. Your air compressor, you should be running that off your main battery with the engine running. That way you're using the alternator to basically run your air compressor. If you use it on your auxiliary battery, look, deep cycle batteries don't like heavy jaws like that. 12 volt fridges in your canopy or back seat or wherever your fridge is, even if it's a center console fridge, run it off your auxiliary battery, because otherwise you risk draining your main battery when you're parked up at camp. Inverters, big or small, run them off your auxiliary battery, because once the vehicle's switched off, you don't want to be draining your main battery. Anything that's going to be doing something while the vehicle's switched off, pretty much just hook it up to your auxiliary battery. Okay, so now for some things that are hooked up to your main battery, but you want to be careful if they're left on. So basically your car stereo, if that is left on at camp and you're playing your music, the louder you actually crank the stereo up, the more power it uses. It's quite surprising, really. So with that, you want to be careful. You can do some kind of isolation, so you can or relay, so you can switch it to your auxiliary battery while you're at camp. But I just wouldn't even leave it on regardless. Your UHF radio. if you leave that on, look, they should be running off your main battery, but if you leave it on, it's not really a big issue because it's only really going to draw a lot of power if you are sending a signal. If you're receiving, it doesn't use that much power. Look, if you're constantly receiving over and over and over, like constantly, then you probably want to turn it off anyway because it's going to be annoying you, but then it will drain your battery too. Thanks for watching. I hope you were able to take in all the tips and advice that I've given you in the general aspect of fitting out an overland vehicle or four-wheel drive vehicle. There are two other videos here. One shows how to DIY, solder, crimping, all that kind of stuff, all the tools you need right here. And there's another video here which shows the new box that's on the back of my Land Cruiser, how I've done it, why I've chosen to use specific items, and you can subscribe here. And if you'd like to support the creation of this kind of content, you can do so as well at patreon.com/RonnieDale. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.